Hey everyone, ready for a deep dive into something kind of wild? It's all about this app, RedNote, which is blowing up right now, especially with that whole TikTok ban thing happening soon.
Yeah, the timing's crazy.
You might be getting ready for like a meeting about this, or maybe just trying to stay ahead of the curve, or hey, maybe you're just curious like me about what's next for social media. So we've got this Reddit thread where people are already like, can RedNote replace TikTok?
Yeah.
Articles from People Magazine, The Advocate, Dexerto, Time. We even dug up the app description from Google Play.
It really is fascinating how this isn't just some random new app. It's surging at this exact moment when TikTok might disappear from the US.
Right.
You've got this whole wave of what some are calling like TikTok refugees.
Yeah.
Users and creators who've got to find a new home online.
And it's not like those other apps are really doing it for everyone, you know what I mean? The People article talked about James Charles, the beauty influencer, and he noticed his audience is way more engaged and positive on TikTok compared to like Instagram Reels.
It's interesting because it suggests there's a difference in the people using each platform, maybe even like the values of each platform.
Yeah.
Instagram's been around a lot longer. Maybe people are just over it there. Or maybe RedNote is attracting a totally different type of person.
That's a great point. So for those of us who aren't on every new app the second it comes out, what I asked RedNote, the name doesn't really scream American thing.
So in China, it's called Xiaohongshu. It actually started as an e-commerce platform, think Pinterest, but with like lots of product reviews.
Okay.
And it's morphed into this massive social media app, what some call China's Instagram. Over 300 million users, mostly women. It's huge with Chinese influencers, particularly in beauty and health.
It's like there's a whole separate internet happening over there.
Yeah.
One thing that jumped out at me was that they have a live online marketplace built in, which we don't really see much of here in the US.
It makes you realize how much online shopping and social media are becoming one thing, especially in China, which is a huge e-commerce market.
Right.
The question is, will that work here? Are we ready to buy stuff straight from an influencer's video?
We're definitely seeing more of that shop the look kind of stuff on other platforms. But okay, back to this whole RedNote surge. There's this Reddit thread where people are going back and forth. Some are super optimistic, like they're talking about RedNote as if it'll bring world peace, like it could connect people from different countries, maybe even reduce racism and xenophobia.
It's a wild thought, isn't it? That an app could actually do that, like bridge cultural divides.
Yeah.
But it also makes you think, can any social media app really avoid the downsides? The negativity, the echo chambers, the fact that everything online is kind of fleeting.
Right. Some people on that thread were basically like, social media is social media. It all leads to anxiety and short attention spans, no matter the app. Then there's the cynical group, saying RedNote is just a fad, soon to be replaced by the next big thing.
Yeah, the internet loves its trends.
Bless you.
But then you have cases like Christina Schuler, an entrepreneur, who was interviewed in Time. She joined RedNote out of spite, she said, cause of how the U.S. government is treating TikTok.
Oh, wow.
It's almost like a protest, choosing a Chinese app because the U.S. government is cracking down on another one.
Yeah, it's definitely a statement. It's not just about the app itself. It's about like this back and forth between governments trying to control what we see online and users looking for alternatives.
And that ties into the whole TikTok ban debate.
Right.
The U.S. government says it's a national security risk cause. TikTok is owned by ByteDance, a Chinese company. They worry about data access and the platform being used to spread propaganda.
Isn't that a slippery slope, though? What about freedom of speech?
That's exactly what the Time article gets into. People who criticize the ban say there's not enough proof to justify it, that it sets a bad example. And they mentioned this New York Times report which said that even the CIA couldn't find solid proof of data misuse by China. Then there's a study from the University of Toronto that suggests TikTok's data collection practices are no worse than Facebook or Instagram's. So it's not as simple as it sounds.
It's really murky. Like, where do you draw the line? Okay, so RedNote might be attracting some TikTok refugees, but it sounds like there are some big differences between the two. The Dexerto article made it seem like RedNote is way more focused on women and things like fashion, beauty, and influencer culture.
That's right. It might feel more welcoming to some, less pressure to look or act a certain way.
Yeah.
But for other TikTok users, especially those making different kinds of videos, it might feel limiting.
Like maybe not the best place for comedy or political stuff.
Possibly. It'll be interesting to see how RedNote changes, whether it stays niche or tries to become the next TikTok, and whether those different groups of users can all exist together.
Speaking of existing together, RedNote isn't exactly a perfect world, right? The Advocate article brought up some serious worries about censorship, especially when it comes to LGBTQ plus content, and even just women showing a bit of skin.
Yeah, that was pretty concerning. Apparently, one TikTok user got banned from RedNote for posting a selfie with, and I quote, a tiny bit of cleavage, and for another video where she talked about the trans plight.
Oh, wow.
It makes you wonder, can a platform based in China with its own social norms and government rules ever truly be a free and open place, especially for groups that are already marginalized?
So it's like trading one set of restrictions for another.
Maybe. And there's the bigger worry that any content that criticizes the Chinese government could get censored, which could lead to something similar to what TikTok is going through now, just from the other side.
It's a lot to think about. Okay, so this TikTok ban is actually happening. For everyone listening, what's the timeline? What happens if it actually goes through?
The deadline is January 19th, 2025, just a few days from now.
Wow, that's super.
Dixerto reported that TikTok is actually ready to shut down U.S. operations on that date if the ban isn't blocked.
So it's coming down to the wire.
It is.
Okay, so we've got this influx of people to RedNote, some fleeing TikTok, some just curious. But is this a lasting change, or is everyone just jumping on board because it feels rebellious?
That's the big question, right? Will RedNote just be a temporary spot for TikTok refugees, or will it become a major player in U.S. social media?
I guess we'll have to wait and see. But one thing stood out to me in all of this. It's not just about which app is better or who's censoring what. It's about who gets to control what we see and share online. That's the bigger issue here.
You're absolutely right. The whole TikTok and RedNote situation shows these tensions between governments, tech companies, and users.
Yeah.
Everyone's fighting for control in this online world, and it's only going to get more intense as the internet becomes even more a part of our lives.
Okay, so we set the scene. The potential TikTok ban, the search for alternatives, and RedNote emerging as a contender. But now let's zoom in on RedNote itself.
Yeah, let's unpack what the app is actually like. The features, the experience, and how it compares to the platforms we all know.
Because calling it China's Instagram doesn't really tell the whole story, does it? There's got to be more to it than that.
Oh, there definitely is. Way more to it. And this is where understanding the technical side matters. RedNote isn't just about posting. It's got e-commerce built right in.
Okay,
It's like social media and online shopping, all in one.
So, paint me a picture here. What's it actually like to use RedNote?
Imagine scrolling through a mix of Pinterest and Instagram, beautiful photos, videos, but almost everything you see, you can buy.
Okay.
You see a cool jacket, you tap, and boom, you're buying it right there in the app.
Wow.
They even have these live stream shopping events, influencers showing off products live, kind of like QVC, but way more interactive.
So it's a totally different experience from just watching TikToks or scrolling Instagram.
Right.
You're actively part of this whole shopping world.
Exactly. And that might be a good thing for some people who are tired of ads and sponsored stuff everywhere else.
Yeah.
On RedNote, buying stuff is just part of the experience, not some extra thing.
But isn't that a bit much? I feel like I'm already drowning in ads online.
It could be, yeah. Depends what you're looking for.
Right.
If you're there to be entertained or connect with friends, the constant shopping might be annoying. But if you love fashion, beauty, finding new products, it could be amazing.
So it's a niche thing, but a powerful one.
Potentially.
Especially if they can crack that U.S. market. Speaking of power, we were talking about censorship. Is there anything in the app itself, like the Google Play description, that hints at how they moderate content?
Well, the description is pretty vague. It talks about RedNote being for young people to share experiences, explore a real, beautiful, and diverse world, and find the lifestyle they desire. But that's all very broad. What they consider real or beautiful might be totally different from what American users expect, given, the cultural differences.
Right. We can't assume their definition of diversity is the same as ours.
Exactly. And that's why those stories from The Advocate are so worrying.
Yeah.
If people are getting banned for showing a bit of cleavage or talking about trans issues, it tells you their rules are a lot stricter than what we're used to.
It's almost like they're trying to create this perfect, curated version of reality, which kind of goes against the whole idea of social media being about, expressing yourself.
That's a good observation. And it makes you wonder if RedNote can ever be a truly global platform if they're enforcing rules that come from a very specific cultural and political viewpoint.
It's like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked shopping, censorship, but what about just using it? How does RedNote compare to TikTok in terms of features and stuff?
This is where it gets interesting. RedNote is way more visual than TikTok. Think less about quick videos, more about curated photos, graphics, longer videos, like a mix of Instagram stories and YouTube, but with that shopping element always there.
So it's not trying to be a TikTok copycat.
Nope, it's its own thing.
And maybe that's good.
Maybe
But can things go viral on RedNote the way they do on TikTok?
that's a good question. Hard to say for sure. Their algorithm is different. Seems less about pushing trends and challenges, more about connecting users with stuff based on their interests and shopping habits?
So more personalized, less about getting famous.
Possibly. Might be nice for people tired of the pressure to go viral. Might feel more relaxed and authentic.
But maybe harder for creators to get noticed and build a following.
True, it's a trade-off. But it also depends what those creators want.
Right.
If they're about building a brand and selling, RedNote's focus on e-commerce could be perfect.
So find the right platform for your goals, whether that's going viral, community, or selling.
Yep.
Do we know what RedNote's goals are? Are they happy staying niche, or do they want to be the next big thing?
We can only guess, but it seems like they're aiming beyond China. They're working with American influencers and brands, making the app easier to use in English.
So they're trying to reach a global audience.
They are. But will that work? Can a platform so connected to Chinese culture and values really go global?
It's like we're watching an experiment in real time. Can RedNote bridge East and West, or will it stay in its own little corner of the internet?
It's a fascinating case study. Shows how hard it is to navigate this online world that's global, but still shaped by culture and politics.
Okay. So we've covered the user experience, the features, the shopping, the censorship stuff.
Yeah.
But there's one more piece I want to explore. Can RedNote actually help people from different cultures understand each other better?
We did touch on that, how some see it as a bridge between cultures.
But is that realistic? Can a platform that's been criticized for censorship really be a place for open conversation and cultural exchange?
That's a tough one. No easy answer. On the one hand, RedNote does offer a glimpse into Chinese culture, like just browsing the app, you see different fashion, beauty standards, ways of life.
Yeah.
And that can be valuable, like a virtual trip to another country.
Right, without leaving your couch.
But the thing is, RedNote's content is still very controlled. We don't know how much is a true reflection of China and how much is shaped by the app's algorithms and rules.
So it's like seeing another culture through a filter, and we don't know how much that filter is changing things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where censorship comes back in. If they're hiding certain viewpoints, especially things that might be sensitive in China, then it's not a real exchange of ideas.
Right.
It's more like a cleaned-up version of another culture,
Right.
edited to fit certain rules.
Yeah, and that can be a problem
It can.
because it reinforces stereotypes and stops us from seeing how complex and diverse other cultures really are.
You're right. It's not enough to just see stuff from another culture. It's about seeing a variety of viewpoints and voices, even the challenging ones.
Yeah.
And that's where RedNote, as it is now, doesn't quite get it. Until they deal with the censorship issue and make a truly open and inclusive space for conversation, it won't reach its full potential for helping people understand each other.
It's like trying to have a conversation with someone who can only say certain things. You get a little bit of who they are, but never the whole picture.
That's a great way to put it.
Right.
It shows why we need platforms that encourage open dialogue and different perspectives, places where we can talk about the complexities of different cultures without being censored or silenced.
Okay, so we've looked at RedNote from all sides. The good, the bad, and the maybe not so good. But in the end, it's up to each person to decide if this platform is for them.
Exactly. No one answer fits everyone.
Right.
It depends on your values, what you like, what you want from social media.
And we got to remember that the online world is always changing.
Yes,
What's popular today might be gone tomorrow.
that's the fun and the challenge of the internet. Constant change and surprises. We're all just along for the ride.
So buckle up, everyone. Who knows what's coming next? All right, so where do we even begin to wrap all of this up? RedNote, TikTok, the future of social media, it's a lot.
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind. We've covered censorship, the potential for cultural exchange, all those unique features of the app.
Right, and whether those features will attract users or kind of push them away.
Right.
So, like, if you had to sum it all up for someone who just joined us, what are the big takeaways here? What's the overall picture?
I think the most important thing is this isn't just about RedNote or TikTok. This whole thing shows us this much bigger story that's still unfolding, how governments, tech companies, and us, the users, are all figuring out how to relate to each other in this digital world.
Yeah.
The internet isn't this separate space anymore. It's tied up with politics, culture, even national security.
It's like we're making up the rules as we go, and the stakes are getting higher and higher.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to be aware, to be an informed digital citizen, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got to understand the impact of your choices online, whether it's using a certain app, sharing something, or even just clicking a link.
It's about being mindful, not just scrolling mindlessly, but thinking critically about what we're seeing and the platforms we use.
Absolutely. And that brings us back to RedNote. It's not a simple situation.
Right.
There's good stuff there, but also some real worries. It could be cool for finding new products, connecting with a different culture, maybe even a more curated online experience. But there are risks: censorship, data privacy, and who knows if a Chinese app can really make it in the US.
That's a bit of a gamble then.
It is. And
Yeah.
each person has to decide if it's worth it for them. No right or wrong answer.
Except maybe to say, be informed.
Yeah.
Do your research. Don't just jump on the bandwagon or write something off without really looking into it.
I agree. We got to move past those quick reactions and have
Yeah.
these conversations in a thoughtful, critical way.
So as we finish up this deep dive into RedNote, let's give our listeners something to think about, something bigger than just the app itself.
Okay, here it is. Imagine if social media was actually designed to help people understand each other, to connect across cultures, and have real conversations. What would that look like? What features would it have? What values would be most important? And most importantly, what would your role be in shaping that kind of digital future?
Whoa, those are some big questions.
They are.
I know I'll be thinking about those for a while. Thanks for diving into all of this with us.
It's been a pleasure.
And to everyone listening, until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and stay curious.